Into Adventure session today. Today we have Kristin Valette Wirth from PADI joining us. We'll be able to answer most of all the questions today in the chat box. There is a chat box that comes directly to me, and you can ask questions in the bottom section there. So a little bit about Kristin before I pass it over to her. Kristin has more than 28 years of dive industry experience, an avid adventurer and explorer. Wirth holds an MBA in marketing, a PADI Scuba Dive Master trainee rating, and has served as a DEMA board member for nearly 8 years. The former director of the Project Aware Foundation, a nonprofit organization created by PADI, which helps mobilize divers worldwide to protect our oceans. Wirth's passion for ocean conservation and preservation helps guide PADI's ongoing mission, encouraging all divers worldwide to seek adventure and save the ocean. So, let me go ahead and admit these last ones coming in. Kristin, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, Cole. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good.
We have a couple last minute people hopping in right now. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Kristin?
Well, thank you for that. And first, let me just start with a big thanks to yourself and the whole Aggressor team for inviting me out. This is just a fun way. I really applaud you guys for keeping divers thinking about diving and dreaming about diving and talking about diving during a time where we have some limitations. And that's pretty fun. So a little bit about myself beyond what you just read. I've been diving for more than 30 years. And boy, I think like all of you, the moment I put that mask on and descended beneath the surface, it just changed my life. You know, I think like all of us, the ocean grabs a hold of you. And it just becomes part of you, right? It becomes part of your soul. So I knew right then that scuba diving was going to be with me for a long time, and I decided I wanted to make a career out of it. So I put my schoolwork to use and my degrees to work, and joined PADI. Seems like a lifetime ago, which 25 years feels like a lifetime ago. But I've been lucky enough to just continue to learn and evolve and stay with a great organization and stay with the industry and meet so many kind folks who share that passion. And so that's why I so much look forward to this opportunity today, just to share my passion with you all and talk to you a bit about just the oceans in general and what we can all do together to really spark a light and spark for change.
Great. Well, I do know that you have a video you want to present that I have on my screen. We're going to share it here. I've got a little faster Wi-Fi signal, so we're going to share that screen now. I'll play the video, and then we'll pass it over to you, and let you do your presentation. Does that sound good?
Perfect. Thank you, Cole. Appreciate it.
Here we go.
Hello, my dear friends. It's been a while since your last visit, but I want you to know I'm here. Here for you now and in better days ahead. I know you're spending hours dreaming of my underwater forest, of my soaring eagle rays, of my wise giant leatherback turtles, of my playful and friendly lions, of the stars that shine below, and the serenading humpback singing. And just as you are resetting, so am I. Everything is more vivid, more plentiful, brighter. I'll continue to surprise you more than ever before. We're always connecting, you and I. In me, you seek solace. And I promise to heal you and delight you. My creatures are calling. A new adventure is waiting. I'll see you soon.
that doesn't make you want to dive, I don't know what will.
I tell you, it's something that I think we all can dream about. And, when we start looking at some of those images, we've all been to lots of those places. And as we do so, and we're reminded of just the beauty of the underwater world. And that's really, what I'm here to talk about today is just, we put that mask on, we don our gear, we go beneath the surface of the water, and we just discover this amazing environment, whether that's a pond, a lake, a river, an ocean. But I think it does grab hold of us all. And what it does is it innately we want to protect it, right? As stewards of the aquatic environment. And that's really what my presentation is about today, is being that spark for change for the ocean. We've got a few things to walk through, and I look forward to hearing, hopefully, some interaction and hearing from you. And Cole's going to be our facilitator for that. So please feel free to chime in and send messages, because I'd love for this to be interactive as well. So first off, maybe just starting with a philosophy, and that is hope. It's a simple word, but there's a lot, that's carried in that, and hope for the future. And I firmly believe that, if you don't have hope for the future, then it's really difficult to carry out action. So the magic combination is the hope and the action combined together. And it's interesting, just over the last couple of months, while we as divers have been away, and not just divers, but fishermen and many enthusiasts in the water have kind of had to push pause and take a break. The oceans are actually showing some interesting signs of recovery, kind of reaffirming that environmental protection makes a difference, and that, we can make a difference. I've got a few examples in here. There's lots of articles that I encourage you to read and explore. Here's a few fun ones. This super pod of 350 sperm whales off the coast of Sri Lanka, who doesn't normally see sperm whales. And things like in a Philippine village, while they were on lockdown, they were making sure that they really helped about 300 sea turtles, hatchlings, to the sea safely. These are fun examples of either divers or nature itself kind of regenerating and showing that there's hope out there. In the Middle East, a super pod, right, of 2,000 dolphins emerged off the coast of UAE. Who wouldn't want to be in the middle of that? And sometimes when we talk about hope, especially these days, we talk about green sprouts of hope. And the reason for that is because, spring comes regardless of what happens in the winter. And, nature just has a way, doesn't it? And so as we navigate through, ever-changing times, and these are unique ones for sure, it's really important to look for those little sprouts of hope, just like after a hard, long winter in some climates where spring starts to come and you see these little sprouts, and that's nature's way of saying, I'm going to go on. And so we're looking for those right now. And sometimes that's in business and economy. And a lot of times it's in nature and the ocean. That said, it's, we can't ignore the issues at hand, right? I've got a slide up right now that talks about 3 major issues, and there's many more, of course, but, pollution, specifically with plastics, overfishing, climate change. The ocean definitely is in serious threat. So when we see, like on the bottom right-hand side of this slide, where it says, seek adventure, save the ocean, the word save is profound in the sense that it implies the ocean needs saving, but we believe it does. And we believe actually divers can make a pretty dramatic difference in this. So I've got a couple of slides here just to kind of show you the perspective. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are super well versed, certainly maybe more so than us on just the reality of what we're facing, right? There are a lot of research that are being done across the globe, and some of them, project some things that sound a little bleak, like this stat right here, 75% of coral reefs are projected to die by 2050. Well, that is if we don't do something about it. As divers, we have a unique view into these beautiful reefs, and we know that we want. You know, you look at overfishing, you look at this example here, 17 of 39 pelagic shark species are threatened with extinction. And in fact, more broadly, 93% of all fish stocks are either fully fished or depleted. And I think if you look at stats like that as standalones, you can think, gosh, that's doom and gloom, that's depressing. But we as divers can't look at it that way, right? We have to look at it as, wait a minute, there's something for me to champion, a cause for me to get behind. You know, this was a unique image. It was actually a screen grab from a diver who was diving off of Bali, and he shot a video, and this went viral in a lot of social media. And it's basically, you know, him diving amongst a bunch of debris that had sort of congregated around him on his dive. You know, so you look at the stat and you say, you know, just as a comparison stake, 400 billion stars in the Milky Way, yet there are 5.25 trillion pieces of trash that reside in the ocean. And that's unacceptable, right? It's unacceptable to us as divers, but more importantly, it's unacceptable to us as humanity. We can't tolerate that. But if you find the hope in that, if you find the challenge in that, and we're willing to put the action in, then it becomes empowering because we can do something about it. And we feel that, you know, that as divers, we have an opportunity here. We can lead this. You know, when you look at our community, we are a passionate community. When we want to speak about something, we speak loud and proudly about it, and we can cause action. We've demonstrated that on many occasions and been able to enact things like greater protection of certain shark species as a result of the loud voice that divers can carry. So we feel we're a vital role in protecting the world's oceans. And I think to all of us, we would all probably agree with these words on screen here. When we talk about the oceans being sacred places and that it's really our privilege, you know, to be able to visit them. But we also think about it, and I hope that you all think about it and you share this with others, is that it's our responsibility. Because we love the ocean, right? It's, you know, what you love, you want to protect. Therefore, it's our responsibility to do that. And we can be, you know, beacons of light, you know, or sparks of, you know, igniting sparks of action for the ocean. We can influence others to become champions for the underwater world. And that's really what we're kind of on about. And I think as you start to see PADI reemerge out of this COVID-19 crisis, you'll see a brand that that is far more dedicated to conservation than you've ever seen before. This quote right here from Drew Richardson, our president and CEO, kind of puts it into perspective. And it talks about making informed choices, right? About how we live our lives. And it really talks about us as a global community of divers and how powerful we can be to be those agents of change, those who really love, who share a love and, you know, and have passion to be a force for good. Because those problems we talked about are significant, you know, and pollution, overfishing, climate change, you name it, they're big problems. And they need big solutions. But we can help mitigate those if we really band together and work together and influence others. So as we go forward and we start thinking about, you know, PADI as a brand and what we want to profess to the dive industry, it's really it's redefining our purpose, you know. So our purpose is very simple. You see it right there. We want to empower, you know, individuals to seek adventure, because I think that's what we all thrive, the exploration, the discovery of our wonderful sport of scuba diving and just the ocean environments and the aquatic environments around us. But also saving the ocean is going to be integral. So you see those paired together, which has now become our tagline as well, because we feel so passionate about that's where we need to be. And when we start thinking about our overarching vision, and I think if you were in a think tank talking about vision, people would tell you, the moderator would tell you, a vision is your preferred view of the world in the future, right? So how you see it. And when we think about our vision, we think about achieving a balance between humanity and ocean. And that's a pretty broad statement, because right now that implies that it's out of balance. And I think all of us know that it is. But the balance in achieving that, and through our actions, we can help contribute to that. That's where the magic happens. And we think we can be a big part of this as a dive community. So then, of course, you start thinking about, well, how are we going to get there? What's the mission of the organization? And for us, we picked a big audacious number. We said, we want to create 1 billion torchbearers to explore and protect the ocean. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to go create 1 billion divers. That just means torchbearers. When we use the word torch, the torch in the PADI logo is what really struck us here. And, the word torchbearer itself is someone who's going to kind of bear witness and champion a cause. And we thought, my gosh, it's been staring us in the face for the last 53 years since our very first logo, was developed. And it has that diver with a torch, and it's shining that torch and holding the torch. And I think as human beings, we can all think of ourselves, as torch bearers, and we get the privilege of, holding the torch for a certain period of time. And then you pass it to the next person to carry that torch for you. And what we mean by that is let's be that army of individuals, who shine a light on some of the serious issues that need action. And then let's take part in developing some of the action to certainly explore, but importantly, protect the ocean. So there's no doubt it will take all of us. There's that torch I was talking about that has been embedded in that logo for so long. And, to really do this, it's really a community effort, right? And it starts everywhere. And this is where I would love to hear from you guys, maybe towards the end of this presentation, is what are ideas and thoughts, that you guys see as wonderful examples of torchbearers who are already out there, communities, organizations, individuals, that are already out there who care deeply about the healing of the planet, certainly both above and below the surface. Those who spark, change by inspiring others to join a movement. It's so apropos that I sit here today and talk to, you guys on the platform of the aggressor fleet here, because the aggressor fleet has taken really good strides in taking this torchbearer concept themselves. They've got the initiative of greening the fleet. And that is an exciting way to show that as an industry stakeholder, they really care about what message they're sending to not only the divers, but the reality of how can we make a difference in our everyday operation. So I applaud everything that Aggressor are doing on that front, because you're making a difference, and together we all can. So when we think about, what does a torchbearer mean? There's lots of ways to become a torchbearer and certainly display that. And I think the 3 key areas that we see in most people's lives would be at home in your everyday world, in your community, hopefully as a leader, as someone who's inspiring, and then of course underwater, when we get the opportunity to get back in the water here soon. And each one of these has its own statement. There's so much you can kind of load up behind each one of these, but if we talk just for a minute, first at home. At home in our everyday lives, this is probably where we can have significant influence, because it's where, the rubber hits the road quite literally. You look at just these 4 things, and there's so many more, but just wanted to call forth 4 here for you today. Looking at our use of single-use plastics, especially right now, particularly with, COVID-19 and people protecting themselves, of course, as they should, but choosing to do so sometimes with a lot of plastics, with the plastic gloves and the plastic, sort of non-recyclable and single-use application of masks and things like that. There's so many cases, whether it's utensils or straws, packaging that your meals are coming in. Our use of single-use plastics is what's proliferating that problem of plastics in the ocean. You saw that staggering statistic of over 5 trillion pieces of trash. And plastic is such a wonderfully made material that it doesn't break down very easily. And so it stays with us, and it stays, and harms our ocean and harms the creatures within it. So that is something all of us can be doing at home, is just really limiting our use and finding ways to replace single-use plastics with, another form of recyclable material. Could be plastic, as long as it's renewable, that you can use over and over again. And then, of course, things, that, of course, you think about like chemicals and fertilizers on lawns and farms and things like that, that eventually, make their way down and pollute our oceans and cause, algal blooms and single cell organisms in the water that shouldn't naturally be there. There's some environments that are dealing with this, and it changes the whole landscape of the community, changes the whole landscape, of the ocean there. So really, looking hard at what our home choices are, reducing energy consumption, and it may feel like small choices in your lifestyle, whether it's turning off the lights, or looking at your thermostat or going to solar or whatever it might be to reduce energy consumption. But adding together, if everybody are doing these things, it does absolutely make a difference. And then, of course, 4, as we say, clean up your act. Just even if you don't live near the coast, anything that goes down the drain, right, eventually will make its way. So looking at your household chores, doing things simply with non-toxic ingredients, using more organics and natural ingredients to basically get the same job done. These are simple things that we can do at home that, will make a big difference, particularly when we're all doing them. And then you look at, okay, now how do I broaden that circle into my community? And one of the things we always say is set an example, be the steward, be that champion for the ocean in your community. When you're visiting the ocean, of course, always, aspire to leave it better than how you found it, just simply by picking up the trash you see, volunteering, things like that. Of course, there's great organizations in this space that we should all be supporting. And I think we know many of them, but that would be a wonderful way to give financially if we can, or volunteer, labor to help support these organizations so that they can continue to make a difference and advocate for change. And speaking of advocacy, that kind of leads to number 3, which is vote. There's an opportunity right there to cause change in your community by letting your voice be heard. And really that's so important. Our public officials will definitely respond to those individuals and their constituents, who tell them what they're most interested in. So, the more we can aggregate together on specific issues, that are important to our aquatic and marine environments, the more change we can bring about at a policy level as well. And then travel smarter, looking at carbon offsets. Of course, the dive industry, we do, consume carbon. That's part of our industry. We, jump on airplanes to go to great destinations. So we get that. So let's look at ways we can purchase carbon offsets. There's groups out there like the Ocean Foundation that does a great job of this, where you can purchase your carbon offsets depending on your length of travel, so that new seagrass can be laid every time you get it on an airplane. And, things like that can really cause change. And then, of course, choosing eco-friendly resorts and liveaboards. And like I said, Aggressor is already leading the way on this. Their Green in the Fleet, initiative is great. So as a customer of Aggressor, you're already making the right choice to choose an eco-friendly, resort, liveaboard that supports this. So your choices here and being a leader in your community is so important. And then just finally, in the water, I think the basics is something that sometimes we all take for granted, but I think all of us have probably been on those dives where you've seen a few people who maybe don't abide by the basics. Being a buoyancy expert, of course, right? I think all of us, it drives us crazy when we see, someone with buoyancy that they're bouncing off of a reef, and we just don't want to be those people, right? As divers, we love the aquatic environment. We love our oceans, our reefs, etc., and the marine life that exists within them. We want to protect it, not harm it. So, if it's been a while for you since you've gotten in the water, do a peak performance buoyancy course, a refresher, a reactivate, something to really kind of get back into that buoyancy expert shape, so that that you're always doing no harm and only doing good. And then, of course, being a role model as well. I think we've all, been in situations, on boats where you see maybe new divers and what an opportunity to take them under your wing and to be a role model for them, and talk to them about some of these important issues, and how they can do simple things, to help make a difference. Of course, our take only photos and leave only bubbles, I think you've seen that a lot in the dive industry, is, let's not be consumptive in what we do, and let's go forth and actually spread the message. It's been so exciting, I have to say, over the last couple of months to just see all of the positive chatter in social media. And so much of it comes through imagery, and you see these videos and still images of individuals, whether they're just dreaming about their favorite dive spot or just sharing out something that inspired them. And it's our way of, I think getting a little bit of like COVID diving revenge or something on social, saying, hey, when we get back in the water, these are the places we want to go. But what a great place to do it is, to learn some photography skills and really share that passion and share it with others. And then finally on this one is just diving with a purpose, really thinking about, I'm getting in the water and of course I'm going to go enjoy it, but I want a mission on this dive too. I want to see if there's any fishing line that I can collect or any debris that I can collect, or maybe I'm going to go replant some coral and be an activist, or plant some seagrass, and, things like that you can really dive with a purpose, and make it part of your mission. So, and I would just say, and I'm kind of getting towards the end, and then we'll open it up for questions and comments here, but above all else, I would just say, do something, get involved. That's the most important thing. Of course, there's big threats to the oceans, right? We've talked about those. We've talked about climate change and overfishing and pollution. But the biggest threat is probably giving up hope and thinking that there's just nothing that we can do about it, because the reality is we can. In fact, we've seen it. We've seen divers' voices make a difference. So we need that magic combination of hope and action, and we can absolutely get somewhere. So I just encourage everybody on the call today to, protect our world's oceans. They're so sacred to all of us. We can do it together. And, we've got a big opportunity coming towards us here, because World's Oceans Day is on the 8th of June. And so I know that PADI's got some big announcements coming out as well around that day, just to really activate that idea of being a torchbearer. So please stay tuned for that, because, as I said, when we reemerge out of this COVID-19 crisis, it's going to be in a way that is that's really got such a focus on saving the ocean, and doing so by enabling it by, of course, seeking adventure as well. So I think, Cole, I will leave it with that, and certainly open up for any questions, any thoughts, and if there's any ideas that anyone, or examples of things that people have done that want to share, I would love to hear that too.
Sounds good. Go ahead and unshare your screen there, Kristin. We'll start the Q&A here. We've got a couple questions coming in. Are there any online courses we can take to encouraging these new habits?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. Thanks, whoever asked that one. There's so many online courses that we have. A lot of the specialty courses are great for this. While environmental conservation is embedded in every course that we do, we have specific project-aware specialties. There's a general project-aware specialty that gives a lot of detail around just a lot of this philosophy. But then there's specifics like shark conservation specialties and dive against debris specialties that teach you very specific tactics on how to best collect debris and how to do so safely, and things like that. There's, of course, the buoyancy specialties, and coral reef awareness specialties and things like that. So I really would encourage anybody, and certainly spread the word, to take some specialties along these lines, so that you can get further education and be able to speak with confidence about what you've learned.
Awesome. And can we sign up for those directly online?
Some of them are available online, and then the others that aren't quite online yet, you can go to a PADI retailer or resort and or PADI instructor and sign up for them that way.
Okay, great. So what are some of the things that PADI has done at the corporate level to green themselves?
Great question. Yeah, it's been, I would say, just a long road that we are continuing to go down. Every company, should constantly be thinking about what can we continuously do to improve. So that's how we've approached it. Starting about a little over 20 years ago now, when we initiated the Project Aware Foundation. So we actually established a 501c3 organization dedicated specifically to ocean conservation. As part of that, we gave grants towards environmental stewardship programs. We started developing educational programs, some of the ones that I've just talked about, some of those specialties that I've just talked about. We have embedded this environmental ethos into all of our core programs as well. But then, of course, we look at more of our operations, right? Everything from packaging, our what we call our crew packs, that, the books and things like that they come in. The packaging around that, we have changed over the years to use recycled packaging. We have also gone online with so many things, whether that's, e-cards or, our learning itself with e-learning, all of our picks and processing done online, things like that to try to reduce our dependence on paper and plastics and things of that sort. So there's many examples. We are continuing to, better ourselves though. Not a day goes by that we don't think, a new idea on how we can continue to green ourselves. So it will be an ongoing process, but we're proud to say we've made lots of great strides in the meantime.
It's great. I know my wife and I, every year at New Year's, we try to come up with a resolution that's eco-friendly. And 3 or 4 years ago, we decided we were going to stop using straws, and it's hard today. I don't know the last time I used a straw, but when Ashley gets stuff with the kids, straws are always coming in their
Yes.
Stuff. So, is there any way to tell just at your local drive-in, like, should you just tell them no plastic on this order, or will they understand what you mean by that? Are they gonna? I'm sure they're gonna stare at you funny.
That's a great question, though. Every state is different, and I think even maybe counties within the states are different. In California, they passed a no plastics law, so many of the restaurants, after a certain period of time, they can't offer straws. It has to be upon request. Most now have gone to either a paper straw or just no straws at all. And it seems so silly, the things that we become so accustomed to, like you say, the straws are a big thing, and we actually put a great emphasis on a campaign about don't suck with your straw because of that. and it kind of got viral on social media. But yeah, absolutely, they will know. And I think the more they hear from consumers too, that's always a great way, again, to just, speak loudly, and let, whether it's restaurants or, any packaging, anything like that, let those companies know that is something that you care about. In a way that we can help is we have developed what we call PADI gear. It's mostly like branded apparel and, and accessories, but it's all ocean first. So it's an ocean first marketplace for divers. And when we can't be in the water, it's a way to express yourself. So like this shirt that I'm wearing, as an example, was made from recycled plastics, things like that, where we actually, work with vendors and find those unique vendors that pull plastics and debris. Some of them are fishing nets. We've got some, flip-flops that are made of fishing nets, things like that. And you just find those unique vendors that can do this and scale it. And we offer, the recycled shopping bags and the reusable straws and things like that. And, it's even the utensils. You walk into a restaurant and you have your own set of bamboo utensils, and it sends a message, right? Like, don't give me any plastic utensils. I've got my, recyclable bamboo utensils with me today. So simple things like that.
Yeah, great. And has PADI worked with Australia on the continued bleaching of the Great Barrier Reef, and what's its major cause?
So yeah, that's a great question. The Great Barrier Reef is definitely having some dramatic effect. One of the ways that we like to get involved is both at a local level and then at a kind of national, or sometimes international level. So we work with the local dive centers who are closest, to the reef, the operations and things like that, to see what can we do how can we help our dive centers, and even in some cases, like help fund our dive centers to do things that can really make a difference, at that level. But then, of course, as you might imagine, some of the issues that are facing, a reef structure like the Great Barrier Reef are so broad. So while it certainly helps, at a local level, you need to also, couple that with, the larger, bigger actions. So we get involved in a lot of research. That's first and foremost very important, because it's the research that will help change policy. And a lot of these things, a lot of the kind of root causes of some of the biggest reef decline is due to some policy that if we were, to be able to enact, we could have a much greater chance of at least reducing that number and of decline potential. So we are very involved in that. And, in fact, our CEO goes to many international meetings every year to talk about reef health, to talk with, scientists and what they can be doing. And I can tell you that there's a few reef structures inside the Coral Triangle, and then certainly Great Barrier Reef and others that are of high focus right now.
Okay, great. Now, has PADI been doing any initiatives to create new divers during this time?
During this time, meaning during
quarantining, COVID, is there any things you want to pitch that way?
Yeah, so in terms of new divers, I mean, of course, there's still, I would say kind of a trickle, if you were to say, we used to be at more of a steady stream, there's still a trickle of diving certification happening for sure in many parts of the world. I don't think the industry has seen anything like this, certainly, not in the 30 years I've been in it, but I think, even well before that. So this is a remarkable event. And diving certifications have drastically reduced, that's for sure. But there is still activity. And I would say that a lot of the instructors, the dive shops, the resorts who are being really creative right now are the ones that are going to come out of this and thrive. One of the things that we have felt we can do is provide business tools and ideas and resource hubs to, our members to be a support system for them, so even if their lights are dark, they can still, be in business, and how they can market themselves, in the COVID-19 world. And that seems to be working because we are seeing activity. In fact, we're even starting to see some instructor level activity happening as well. And then, of course, we've got geographic pockets where things are starting to open back up. So we've created this COVID-19 divers map, by the way. And what we intend to do with that, we're getting it populated right now at the local level. So all the dive shops are populating it because it's all user-generated content, kind of crowdsourced, if you will. And the dive shops themselves are uploading if they're open, when they're open, what their business hours are, what the diving conditions are like, if beaches are open, if local dive sites are open, if there's any restrictions, with diving in that area. And what it's doing is it's populating this awesome map that when we launch it here near World Oceans Day, it'll be a great resource for divers all over the world to be able to go to figure out where they can go diving right now. And it'll be ever changing because as things open up, the map will get populated as well.
Great. So where do you plan to dive next?
Oh, that's a great question. You know what? It's going to be local. I think dive local is going to be the name of the game for a while. So I plan to dive in Catalina Island, because I'm based in California. And so I'll be heading over to Catalina Island. Ferries are starting to open back up. And divers are starting to go out over to the island. So that'll be great. As soon as I can get on an airplane, boy, that's as divers, I think we all have our bucket lists, right? Certainly hope to jump on an aggressor boat soon and dive with y'all. Yeah,
we'll have to get you on there. Let's see. Here's one question. If the oceans are improving during the pandemic, how much of that is due to less divers, would you say? That's probably a hard question to answer, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's not, the science that we've seen around divers' impact on the environment, it always proves out that it's very insignificant. So while we say the oceans are resetting, it's likely not because divers are not diving them. It's largely because, many other industries have stopped. Big shipping industries have slowed or stopped. And, some of the, massive pollution is slowing, and, just air quality, because less people are driving, less people are flying. So there's just some bigger things happening. But it's not to say that divers sometimes don't, accidentally have an impact, so we can't say that we're just the perfect industry that has zero impact. And that's why, we feel that it's really important to continue to educate and to be those role models. So when you see that, and I think we've all probably been in the water where you see somebody maybe whose buoyancy isn't great, politely call that out, and encourage them, to let them know what potential damage they might be doing, so that we can all improve, as an industry, because ideally we want to be that zero impact, industry. And that should be something we all aspire to.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, Kristin, we appreciate you being on. Really great PowerPoint there, and powerful stuff. So thank you so much. And I will go ahead and read a upcoming schedule for us.
Cool.
We're starting to add some more calls, but as of now, we do have Scott Arney going to be talking about the Plow Aggressor 2 and the Rock Islands Aggressor tomorrow. That call is going to be 4 p.m. Eastern time. And on Tuesday, June 2nd, 3 p.m. Eastern time, we have Anditz Calipasaro going to be talking about Cocos Island. So that's it. And Kristin, again, thank you so much for being on.
Thanks so much, Cole, and happy diving, everyone. Look forward to seeing y'all in the water.
All right. Take care, everyone. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.